Last question, who are the participants? Just students or?
Yeah, mostly students, Indonesian students, actually, mostly. Like there are 40 40 to 50 Indonesian students here that have been attending. And then there are also our sponsors, which is from private. They're coming here also physically. The sponsor from Trio, from QSI, from Zinc Power, from Paragon, yeah, from the private sectors are also here as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add? Okay. Then, if there's no question anymore, then I will give you to the program and program session, and then we will start in 4 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Makasih banyak Pak Joko. Makasih Pak Tony.
Terima kasih.
It's nice meeting you, Mr. Ayanto.
Halo Anja.
Hi. So
And
where are you located?
You're from? I'm sorry?
Germany.
I mean, your institution?
My
From the
institution is from the private sector. We are a advisory and research institute, as well as investment manager for large institutional investors.
Okay. Actually, my institution, Indonesia Environment Fund, is also working closely with the Germany, and now with a KfW. Now we,
Yes.
on the final discussion, because Germany willing to implement result-based payment for the forestry sector that will manage under my institution. Yeah.
Okay, and you are working you are the president of the Indonesian Environmental Fund. What is that?
So Indonesia Environment Fund is like the government's arm's length. We are working under the Ministry of Finance as our a principal, and then we do what we call a many blended finance from many resource financing. Yeah, because if we reverse from our regulation, we can collect money from the international, from MDBs, from the bilateral, from the philanthropy, as well as from and blended with from the domestic side. In one area, we have a big money from state budget, because we have so many mandates from a state, from the president, manage reforestation fund, and then distribute to social forestry, manage what we call Indonesia Quality Tourism Fund, and also Indonesia Disaster Risk Financing. And then we try to blend with the international funding, with the philanthropy funding, and getting many facility, the risking facility, guarantee fund, and also other potential facility. And then we distribute all to the domestic, to the local government, to the private company, to the social enterprise, to the startup businesses, and also from the community-based level, including indigenous people.
Excuse me, we will officially start and commence with the events. So I'm very sorry to interrupt your chat earlier. So, welcome back everyone to the last day of Iconic 2024, and good morning. So I hope all of you have had a chance to rest yesterday after 2 days of Iconic 2024. And today we will start with our last day of Iconic. And approaching the conclusion of Iconic 2024, this last day will have our last plenary session take place, which will be covering the topic of green financing and sustainable investments for low carbon development. And afterwards, we will also have the Meet the Industry company presentation sessions, courtesy of our sponsors, where they will provide a glimpse to what their respective firms have done in contributing to the paradigm change that is the low carbon development, low carbon future. Alongside the range of events happening here at Hall 10, we will also have scientific conferences starting parallel to this session with the study in the scientific conference on political economy of low carbon development within the global north and south dynamics, as well as low carbon development in the built environment. Just like the days before, you can also explore the Meet the Industry booths out in the foyer. This is your last chance to do so and to chat with them about their respective things, their respective agendas. So, that would be the agenda for today. I hope you will enjoy the range of events of the last day of Iconic 2024 and stay with us till the end. So in this next session, we will explore various approaches across in the previous sessions, we have explored various approaches across various fields, far and wide, that encompasses efforts in terms of creating a low-carbon future. And now we are circling back to one of the first issues we've addressed at first, which would be with regards to financing. If you remembered in our first ministerial talk, it kind of ended in a slightly more pessimistic note. Of how difficult the sharing of responsibilities can be. But hopefully in the session we can try to showcase that there are other alternatives to finance low carbon development and to do green financing. So along with distinguished speakers who are expert in this field, we are also joined in by our moderator, Ms. Christine Gracia Pratama, a PhD candidate in the field of technology and innovation management at the Hamburg University of Technology. So let's get straight into it and welcome Ms. Pratama to the stage. A round of applause, please. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Jessica. Moin moin, good morning from Germany. So today is a Friday and still early. So how about we start from the real life story? Well, I live in the north of Germany, Hamburg. Well, over these past few days, we experienced kind of a thunderstorm, a huge storm, and then one day I asked my professor, who born in Germany, and then I asked him, is it normal? But then he said, oh, normally we never experienced like this before. Well, so this is the example of the climate change. But luckily, unfortunately, Iconic these past 2 days have been exploring, also discussing a lot of interesting and important topics. For example, start from the financing low carbon development in Indonesia during the ministerial talks. And then we also learn about the decarbonization of the industry and the transportation sector. And also we learn about the carbon capture, storage, and also removal. Well, yesterday we also learned about reducing follow emission and also decarbonization of the construction sector. Well, after discussing a lot of these critical topics, the question arises is actually what kind of financial instrument that can funding all of this to achieve LCD target. Well, today, before we start it, I would like to start with the interaction Slido. Maybe please all of you can take your smartphone and then scan the QR code. Okay. 30 seconds. Okay. Okay, so majority is either not familiar at all or heard of it, but not sure what is that. Okay, so you are in the right plenary because we will together learn about this grant financing topic. So today, I'm not the one that presents, but join me, we will have 4 distinguished speakers. But before that, did you know that we need almost $2.8 trillion in order to achieve LCD by the 2030? Well, that's a huge amount that we need. But then how is this need funded? That's the one that we will discuss today. Well, some of the financial instruments could be grant, investment, MDB, or even loan. But again, not all of this fund is free from the debt. For example, as you can see from this one, you can see this pink color is a non-concessional loan. What does it mean? How if we get trapped because developing countries take this non-concessional loan? And that's the risk here. Another financial instrument like a green bond, for example, also has a risk. How if we can not manage the interest rate of this bond? What will happen in the next 10 or 20 years? Well, ADB, World Bank, has been promising us about huge amount of money. Like this one. This is a piggy bank full of money. So the funding is here, but we still don't know who is eligible for this fund. And also we don't know how to get this fund. And what kind of other financial instrument actually more reliable for financing this LCD? Well, with me, join for distinguished speaker. The first one is Dr. Joko Triharyanto, President Director of Indonesia Environment Fund, Mr. Tony Wage, Executive Director of Indonesia Climate Change Trust Fund, ICCTF, Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas, Ms. Anja Bieber, Head of SDG Office from the Ferry Group, and the last of not least, Mr. Wempi Saputra, Executive Director of the World Bank Group of Southeast Asia. So today we will unpack all of this topic together with them. First of all, I will, unfortunately, Mr. Wempi Saputra couldn't come today live due to the personal reasons, but luckily he sent us from the US his video recording. Please start it.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Indonesian Students Associations in Germany for inviting me to join the 5th International Conference of Integrated Intellectual Community, or ICONIC, as a panelist. It is my pleasure to be here among the distinguished speakers to discuss green financing and sustainable investment for low carbon development. However, due to very packed schedule in the World Bank towards the annual meetings in October 2024, allow me to join this event via video recording. The theme of the fifth iconic is very timely and relevant. Green and sustainable finance are types of financial activities that support the transition toward a low-carbon, sustainable economy while addressing global challenges we face today, such as climate change and emerging environmental and sustainability risks. Green finance and sustainable finance are important tools for achieving these transitions by redirecting investment toward environmentally friendly projects and integrating ESG factors into investment decision-making. By incentivizing investment in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and other sustainable initiatives, green finance and sustainable finance can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, mitigate the negative impacts of climate change, and help us to achieve a sustainable and resilient global economy that promotes long-term social and environmental well-being. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to discuss 4 questions on my remarks today. First, what is the role of the World Bank Group in promoting the financing and investment into green projects and sustainability throughout the globe? The World Bank Group I mentioned in this remark refers to arm's length that is in these institutions, the public sector arm's length, which are IBRD and IDA, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and International Development Associations, and the private sector arm's length, which are International Finance Corporation, IFC, and Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, or MIGA. There are 2 main focuses of the World Bank Group's support to address climate and development needs: supporting the implementation of nationally determined contributions, the NDC, and long-term strategies, the LTS, and advocating for policy reforms and more inclusive dialogue to support climate action. The bank undertakes cutting-edge analytics, including their country climate development reports, CCDR, with over 45 reports have been published to date. In terms of financing, the World Bank Group has delivered a record of $38.6 billion in climate finance in fiscal year 2023, supporting efforts to end poverty on a livable planet. This is a 22% increase in climate finance compared to the previous year. Increasing the resources available to developing countries is part of the bank's new playbook to drive impactful development and take more risks. IBRD and IDA together delivered $29.4 billion in fiscal year 23 in climate finance, of which almost $12 billion specifically supported investment in adaptation and resilience. Meanwhile, IFC, the private sector arm of the World Bank Group, delivered $7.6 billion in climate finance, representing 46% of its investment commitments of the year. IFC further mobilized $6.8 billion of private capital from other sources, making the total of record $14.4 billion in climate finance. On the other hand, MIGA, the World Bank's political risk insurance and credit enhancement arm, delivered $1.5 billion in climate finance. With these results, financing for climate action in fiscal year 23 reached 41% of total World Bank Group financing of $95 billion. The World Bank Group has become more ambitious. It aims to raise annual climate financing to $40 billion by the end of the next fiscal year in June 2025, which is around 45% of all financing. This $40 billion is proposed to be allocated equally between climate adaptation and mitigations. The equal split is to make sure that the concerns of Global South as well as the Global North are addressed. Second, what is the state of play and the mechanism of partnership between the World Bank Group and Climate Investment Fund, CIF, and Global Environment Facility, GEF. The World Bank Group also works in partnership with other parties and multilateral development banks in promoting green investment and sustainable finance, including Climate Investment Fund, CIF, and Global Environment Facility, GEF. The CIF is a leading multilateral climate financing partnership that channels concessional finance through 6 multilateral development banks for both upstream advisory and downstream investment activities to support climate action. The World Bank Group, including the International Finance Corporation, the African Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the European Development Bank, and the Inter-American Development Bank, are the implementing partners of the CIF investment. To date, 15 contributors countries have pledged over $10 billion to CIF. This is expected to mobilize an additional $62 billion in co-financing for 73 recipient countries. On the other hand, GEF has played a pivotal role in addressing the world's most pressing environment needs since its founding more than 30 years ago. Co-founded by the World Bank, the UN Environment Program, and UN Development Program, GEF has supported developing countries' effort to take an integrated approach to sustainable development. Through these collaborations, the World Bank Group has supported transformative investment and financing approaches for renewable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable transport, biodiversity conservation, waste management, sustainable land management, and the blue economy. With external financing through GEF, the World Bank can offer blended and flexible financing options, often serving as the initial funding that facilitates larger projects and attracts additional private investment. In this way, it has played a key role in de-risking investment, piloting innovative solutions, and mobilizing private capital for climate and nature. Since the GEF inception, the World Bank Group has implemented 836 projects in 146 countries, supported by $5.8 billion in GEF funding. This funding has catalyzed additional investment of around $42.4 billion from other sources and remain instrumental in helping countries better manage their natural resources and enable cleaner and greener economic growth. In addition, the World Bank Group also promotes public-private partnership (PPP) to boost private sector investment in green projects. PPP are a tool that help governments leverage the expertise and efficiency of the private sector, raise capital, and spur development. They also have allocated risk across the public and private sectors to where it can best be managed and ensure that resources are wisely distributed and addressing the most urgent developmental needs. The World Bank Group, particularly via IFC, has helped governments successfully deliver projects such as for public transportation, renewable energy, and hospitals. It's humbling to see governments find ways to improve people's quality of life and create jobs by tapping into the resources, expertise, and innovations of private enterprises. Third, how the World Bank's group greens bonds as a way to raise capital for climate-related projects fit into the low-carbon development agenda. The World Bank Group has also been continuously promoting green financing and sustainable investment for low-carbon development. In fiscal year 2023, IBRD drew on its AAA rating and strong standing in the market to raise about $43 billion in sustainable development bonds, which were issued in a variety of structures and maturities. As part of its funding program, IBRD issues sustainability bonds and green bonds. Since issuing the first ever labeled green bonds in 2008, it has issued almost $290 billion in labeled bonds, including $18 billion in green bonds. For green bonds, IBRD allocates equivalent amounts to eligible activities that address climate change. The bank has expanded its approach to issue sustainable development bonds that support all their activities. Today, IBRD is the largest issuer of sustainable development bonds and uses the funds raised from capital markets to support development activities in member countries. As part of its effort to mobilize capital from capital market, IBRD continued to engage with bond investors in fiscal year 23 about how the World Bank mainstream climate actions and integrate climate and sustainability throughout their work with countries. The World Bank also engaged with investors on development priorities such as biodiversity, education, climate change, road safety, and water. The bank also provides countries with technical assistance to develop greener and more sustainable capital markets and financial systems, facilitate market-based solutions, and mobilize private sector and capital toward environment and social priorities. After working with Colombia on the first sovereign green bond by helping develop a national green taxonomy to identify projects and activities that can be supported by these bonds, the World Bank assisted with their post-issuance impact report in fiscal 2023. The World Bank also provided technical assistance for post-issuance impact reports for Egypt and Indonesia, as well as for the state-owned enterprises PT Indonesia Infrastructure Finance. Also in fiscal year 23, the World Bank provided technical assistance to government of India in establishing a sovereign green bond program, helping them raise the equivalent of about $2 billion of Indian rupees in domestic capital markets through green bonds. This will help finance renewable energy and the electrifying of transport systems throughout the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth thing, last but not least, what are the various avenues of financing and funding mechanism offered by the World Bank for climate and sustainability-related low-carbon projects, especially for developing countries? Fostering sustainable investment is a pressing challenge for the increasingly urgent race to achieve worldwide net zero goals, especially in emerging economies. Green projects often suffer from underinvestment and high required rates of return because private investors see green technologies are riskier than alternative investments. Political and regulatory risk stemming from an absence of mechanisms and instruments to guarantee attractive returns on investment contribute to private sector investors' hesitancy. The risk and public budget constraint of energy transition projects are even greater in developing economies, where about 3/4 of green investment need to occur. That suggests that green projects in areas such as in the global south are often not bankable because their risk-return profiles do not meet investors' criteria to mobilize sufficient capital. The scale of investment needed to finance the green energy transition and multitude of investment barriers highlight the vital importance of governments, financial institutions, lenders, investors, and project developers collaborating on mechanisms to foster the bankability of green projects that are essential for the climate neutrality. Governments across the spectrum of economic development can work with financial institutions to develop mechanisms and instruments that can reduce risk and unlock private finance at attractive costs. There are 3 actions areas to help for sustainable investment. First, de-risking green projects. Clear climate policies, guarantee mechanism, offtake reliability, and the development of domestic capital markets can significantly reduce the risk associated with these projects. The Just Energy Transition Investment Plan in South Africa is an example on how national energy and climate strategies can provide a starting point for establishing a low-risk environment for green projects. The plan describes the scale of need and the investment required to achieve the country's decarbonization commitments for initial 5-year period, and it outlines financing and implementation plan. Blended finance mechanisms such as concessional loans and subordinated loans can both reduce project risks and facilitate commercial capital flows to green projects by mobilizing concessional capital or funding provided at more favorable rates of terms than otherwise accessible in the market. Second, bridging the cost gap. Emerging green technologies can carry a higher price tag than fossil technologies, but several tools could help bridge the gap between green and greenhouse gas intensive asset costs. This includes plans to support research and development to support systemic economies of scale, as well as the project-by-project upfront investment subsidies. Used in combinations, these levers could help facilitate market integration of green products. Funds that support clean energy projects by financing a part of the capital expenditure can help green projects narrow the cost difference with fossil technologies. For example, the EU Innovation Fund provides grants that cover up to 60% of the capital costs of eligible projects to help bring the new low-carbon technologies to commercial maturity. Third, transitioning away from fossil fuels. Despite their incompatibility with net zero objective, fossil fuel subsidies continue. Although they are complex, fiscal reforms to incorporate the full social cost of fossil fuels into their price could effectively reduce the attractiveness of GHG-intensive activities like coal power generation or gasoline vehicles. In addition, compensating entities for the early phase out of some of the fossil assets and helping people employed in GHG-intensive industries to transition to clean jobs can further help lay the groundwork for cutting fossil fuels. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, meeting climate goals is a formidable challenge. Decisive and coordinated policy support and collective action from investors and policymakers are paramount to guide investment toward green and sustainable projects. Policymakers need to balance local constraints with global green policy trends to achieve these actions, and investors and lenders should be ready to face the challenges ahead with a commitment to upfront investments that will reap benefits later and focus on investment in developing economies. The collaboration between policymakers, financial institutions, industry leaders, investors, and others to pool the practical knowledge and experience and create new green project finance ecosystem model is a must to lay a foundation for a global sustainable green finance environment aligned with climate ambitions. We need all shoulders to the wheel to ensure our planet remains livable and lovable for everyone. Together we can and must deliver. I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wempi Saputra, for giving us a presentation. So now, Mr. Joko Triharyanto, I now hand it over to you. Please give him a applause. Mr. Joko Triharyanto, you can get started now. Okay, maybe we can move to Mr. Tony Wage, Executive Director of Indonesia Climate Change. Hello, Mr. Tony Wage.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I now hand it over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, greetings from Jakarta. Good morning to you. I would like to start with an applause to the students, the Indonesian students organization, PPI in Germany, for hosting such an important event. I think we are all have been in your situation when we were students. We want to make a big impact, and I think this is one way of doing that. So again, congratulations to you, and again, thank you for inviting us. Please convey my regards to Pak Hafaz, ambassador, and yeah, we met a few months ago in Greece. So that's why I think we are here. So let me begin my presentation. So to avoid talking, into so many different things, I have some slides that I would like to share with you. So can I get to the next slide, please? All right. I hope you can see this. It's a little bit big and crowded, but I think the key message from this slide is we are now experiencing at least three planetary crises that we are all feeling. I heard Christine mention about early on about the more severe thunderstorm or different variation of the climate. So that's one of them. Besides the climate change crisis that will affect at least 50 to 70% of the global population by 2100. We also are facing with the pollution crisis. Air pollution causing up to 4.2 million deaths every year, 4.2 million. And the last one, and this is very much felt in a country like Indonesia, that you are all are very much adhere on, and that is the biodiversity loss. So we know Indonesia is the heaven, the center of the mega biodiversity, both terrestrial and the oceans. So what are we going to do with this crisis? We have to face that. One way of doing that, of course, is through development of the regulation policy and so on, but definitely in the sector of financial issue. And I want to focus more on the climate change problem, the crisis, because you are all the expert. You are studying now that it happens through this combination of what I would call the anthropogenic aspect, which is caused by human, as well as the intrinsic, which is the nature part, let's say between the land, the ocean, and the atmosphere that regulate the climate dynamic and the climate system, that variation. So that if you have, drop like accelerators and the brakes, one is you accelerate and the one is you try to stop or to brace. So that's why, we have to balance that. That is, easier said than done. Because, that this is not easy. One hand, we are trying to increase the development part, but on the other hand, we have to make sure that the nature is coping with that okay. So in the ministry where I'm at, which is the Bappenas, Ministry of National Development Plan, we recognize that, and that's why I want to talk more about this, what we are doing in terms of how to handle this. Next, please. So if you look at the climate strategic action to drive Indonesia's economic transformation, from those three crises, we can look at from the component, or at least the drivers that make that will cause for the crisis, and also the initiative that we are doing. So, for instance, and under the climate change issues in Bappenas, we have this low carbon development initiative, right? So that includes the circular economy. Early on, the speaker and also the moderator mentioned about this low carbon thing. So that will involve energy, land-based waste industry, blue carbon, which is dealing with the oceans, as well as the resilient development. Of course, the ocean is number one, water, agriculture, and health. Similarly, you have the pollution crisis, which is actually dealing with the waste and the pollution management. You know that Indonesia has been dubbed as the second or the third plastic polluters in the world, in the ocean. So that's what we are working with this plastic action plan to deal with the, firstly just plastic, and then you deal with the solid waste, water waste, air pollution, hazardous waste, and so on. But more important also is with regard to the biodiversity management. And that's why we need to sort of like have this in place in terms of the sustainable use and reduce the biodiversity loss. Those are the basically the general idea of what the government is doing. And yes, everybody agrees. Right? Nobody will not agree with that. But then, if you look at how you will implement that, we have here the land, the terrestrial, and the ocean ecosystems, and then you will have to do also the economic transformation. Of course, that requires funding, a lot of them. And also, we set targets. Indonesia has been signatories of the SDGs 2030 commitment, as well as the climate change, the Paris Agreement. Nationally, we have the Indonesian vision for 2045. We call the Golden Indonesia because by then we will reach our 100th year of independence, as well as this one has been in your mind, which is the net zero emission by 2060. Again, that's the sort of like the going into the more defined target. So next, please. So if we look into the climate change aspect in Bappenas, we have the mandate, of course, to develop the National Development Plan. And that's why we call the Ministry of National Development Plan. So under the climate change mitigation effort that will be applied nationally. So first, the initiative I mentioned earlier about the low carbon development that will cover the waste management and circular economy, green industry development, sustainable energy, blue carbon from the ocean, and sustainable land recovery. So right now, we are at this midterm development plan of 2020-2024, right? So we are finishing this cycle with this I would say, very ambitious target. So with the greenhouse gas emission reduction by 27.3, and then density target of 31.6. These are all within the reach of the government. But if you look at the more sort of like a long-term plan, so this is going to 2045, then this is more ambitious. Remember, 2060 is the net zero emission. So by 2045, we have to reach at least 93.4% emission reduction, right? This is a big and monumental task. So again, it requires not just the regulations, the effort, activities, actions, but also funding. When we go into the climate resilience development, this is sort of like the adaptation part. So we'll deal with the ocean and the coastal area, the water, agriculture, and health. And if you look at the National Development Plan currently, we have to reduce the economic loss to 0.3%. Very, very small, but very significant in terms of the GDP 2024, and about the proportion for 2025, 0.1%. But more importantly, I believe everyone, as long as you're Indonesian, you know that in next October we are going to have a new government. The new government, they have already announced there will be this 8 vision. I would say the Astachita. So if you look more detail,
more minutes left.
5 more minutes. I'll make it 4. Yeah. In the Astachita number 2, it says that strengthening the country's defense and security system, encouraging national independence, through self-sufficient in food, energy, water, creative economy, green economy, and blue economy. Okay, so let's go next to not this one, but the slide after that. The next one, please. Yes. Okay. So, oh, maybe you can move one slide back. Can you move one slide? One more. That one. Okay. So, under the green economy, so I want to underscore the green economy, which is actually the low carbon, resource efficient, and social inclusive. What we have here, the important figure that I want to point out is the 51.6 billion USD per year. That is the amount of money you would need per year to reach the decarbonization scenario investment toward 26. So that's a lot of money that we have to raise from public and private funding. Next, please. If you look at the blue economy, so this is the vision, so you can skip that. Go to the next one. So why blue economy and blue finance is important? Because in the blue economy target by 2045, can you go next, please? Yeah, okay. No, sorry, step one. Stay there. So we must reach to this maritime sector contribution to at least 50%, 15% of the national contribution from the maritime sector. Currently, we are sitting at around 7.8. This is 2021 figure. The second target is we have to establish 30%, 30% of our marine area as a conservation area. And that translates into almost 100 million hectares. And then finally, the third target, actually, I did not put it on my slide, but the third target is we have to reach by 2045, 12% of total employment force should be contributed from the maritime. Again, we need a lot of effort, a lot of fund. And then the fund that is available from the government is only, what, 20-25%, where the rest, the 70-80% will come from the innovative financing. Okay, so next, I'll skip the, let me go next, I'll go briefly. Next slide, please. ICCTF is the, oh,
Hello, Mr. Tony Wage, are you still with us?
muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. My two last slides. So can you go backward to the ICCTF slide? Not that one, before that. Yeah. So ICCTF, we were established back in 2009. Back then, we were the first trust fund in Indonesia in 2009. So we are doing 4 focus area: the land-based mitigation, adaptation and resilience, energy, and marine. Next.
1 minute left.
So what? Let me try in less than 60 seconds. We have developed this document as a guideline. Next, please. I would like to highlight several, because people are talking about the instruments, financing instruments, especially in the blue economy. These are the existing, some of the existing and the ongoing instruments that we are working, including the SDG bond, the blue samurai bond, but its very name is a blue or marine, the debt for nature swap, trust fund, the green sukuk. Remember, sukuk is very important as part of the bond based on Sharia law. But also, we are working on the coral bond. This is together with the World Bank, Ministry of Marine Affairs Fisheries, Ministry of Finance, JEF, and private banks. and also the parametric instrument for coral reef and biodiversity finance for instrument. So finally, let me just wrap up my talk. Next slide, please. So with want to highlight the coral bond. Can I get to the next slide? This is what we are developing now, again with these different ministries. It is very new. We have not launched that, but it will be an impact based. You can all see in the slide, but it is what we are working at now. And yeah, I'm happy to share any thought from me and then question to respond to your questions. I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Okay, please give him applause. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tony Wagi. Well, now, is Mr. Joko Triharyanto already with us?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Now, I'll now hand it over to you, Mr. Joko. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Thank you, everybody. First of all, of course, thank you to the Iconic that this is very valuable event.